Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, Season 2, Episode 8. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Joe Payne of the Las Vegas Advisor, who is joining us from parts unknown. Actually, I think he's in Connecticut somewhere, after him helping guide the Vegas Golden Knights to a 4-0-0, 8-point East Coast road trip. And if you listen to Episode 7, Joe and I both agreed 6 or 7 points would probably be a really positive road trip. But lo and behold, the Golden Knights, 4 games in 6 nights, including 2 bonus periods and a couple of shootouts, are probably somewhere over Chicago right now, headed back to Vegas with 8 points in the bag. The first team in the Western Conference to 20 wins. And wait, hold on. They started out 1-4. But they're in first place in the Pacific Division. Joe, you watch. Imagine that. Who knew after all the rats jumped off the Titanic when they were 1-4, they're in first place? Joe, you went to all 4 games. How was the trip?
Actually, I didn't go to all 4 games. I went to the 3 New York games. I didn't go.
Oh, that's right. You didn't go to Boston.
I didn't go to the Boston game. It was the trip was hot, and so was the weather in New York, considering that we're in literally a week before Christmas. I left my jacket in the hotel room every day except today. Today it finally got a little chilly, and I had to put my jacket on. But prior to today, I walked or took the train down to the Garden and over to the Rock, and just in a shirt and a t-shirt underneath. That's how warm it was in New York, and Vegas was just as hot. Reeling off 4 impressive wins. For a 4-game road trip, picking up 8 points when you and I both thought. I think I said I thought they would be good if they got 7. I think you said 6.
6 or 7, yeah.
They outlasted both of us and swept all 8 points. They needed 2 overtimes to do it. Actually, they needed 2 shootouts to do it. But I will tell you this: I want to make this one point. And a friend of mine back east who's been a hockey guy and pretty knowledgeable. He said to me, and I totally agree with him, I think it's a great idea. They should make the overtime a 10-minute period with no shootout, because the overtime period that we saw, and I personally saw in New York against the Rangers, was the best overtime period I've seen since they instituted it, almost 17 years ago? It was back and forth. One quality chance after another. Not one whistle. The crowd at Madison Square Garden, everyone was on their feet. The shootouts, they call it the Bettman point that you get. I'm all in favor of let's go to a 10-minute overtime period. And if it ends like that, each team just gets 1 point and let's move on. Because that is entertaining. I know. You're the shootout. You like shootouts.
No. I don't look.
Oh.
I don't like the shootouts, but I don't think that the Players Association would ever go for that. I think that 10 minutes is right. I would prefer to see there be 3 points for a win, 1 point for a loss, sort of like the Premier League in soccer does it, where because there's more motivation to win the game. And listen, your point is exactly spot on. The shootout against the Rangers was spectacular.
Oh.
But now there's a fascinating article on The Athletic that talks about how the coaches have sort of figured it out, and that there's too much of this going back outside of the blue line and resetting, and that there's a lot of dog in it, and that there needs to be some sort of punitive or punishment if you're in the attacking zone
and take the puck back out,
and you willingly, knowingly take the puck out to reset. Because let's face it, the overtime period, the whole thing is to create an odd man rush. The entire plan is, if you have to go back and reset 10 times, you're looking for that stretch pass, you're looking for that mismatch, or you're looking for that bad bounce. You're looking for something to create a mismatch. And there's so much time with the offensive team going the opposite ways, of their zone, trying this, that it's really sort of diminished it. In the first couple of years, all the shootouts were wild, woolly affairs like the Golden Knights and the Rangers. But no, I think the skills competition is a bad look. I understand fans think it's fun and they stand up but you know what? Penalty shots are rare in the NHL, right? To knowingly put up 5 or 6 of them potentially every night, I think it diminishes the electricity of when a referee calls a penalty shot in a game.
Right.
And frankly, listen, Robin Lehner is 2-0 in his last 2 shootouts.
Is it with today? Isn't today making 3-0?
I think 2. I think the last 2.
I thought he was 2-0 going into today.
But I am not pro shootout. I wish the Players Association in conjunction with the NHL would figure out a way to tweak the scoring to make the shootout more like the Rangers and less like it was today. There was a couple of little runs at it today, but for the most part, they were just trying to get to the shootout and hunt.
Right. There was a lot of sending the puck all the way back down the end of the ice.
Yeah.
Which when you compare to what we saw on Friday night at Madison Square Garden, it was like,
Yeah, you saw the best. You saw the best and the worst.
Exactly. That was pulsating at the Garden on Friday, and today it was less. It was a murmur of a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In comparison.
So let's get to the road trip. A very solid win in Boston.
Yes.
Very solid. Yes, they're ravaged by COVID, but you know what? I don't give a crap. You can make all the excuses you want for people being out of the lineup. Unless you talk about the Golden Knights man games lost, that argument has no water. That was no water with me. A very complete effort.
Yes, but Vegas did catch a little bit of a break in the Boston game, Marchand was out. In the Ranger game, Panera was out. And today, Matthew Barzal was out. But also Mark Stone missed today's game, which we're thinking might be a reoccurrence of the injury that kept him out for a couple of weeks prior. It's upper body. But I saw him after the Ranger game outside the locker room, eating pizza and commiserating with Ryan Reeves. A bunch of guys. Ryan Reeves came over and a bunch of guys came out, and he did not look injured to me then. So I'm not really sure what happened.
Well, as somebody who's lived with a bad back for 30 years,
that it just
he could have sneezed wrong,
right?
And he could have missed a game. The thing is that Pete DeBoer said after he didn't think it was like that in referring to the previous injury that cost him a month. But
he did make that statement. He didn't think Stone would be out long this particular time. I guess we'll see on Tuesday.
So I think
if there's a game,
I'm going to say that the chances of there being a game Tuesday are a plus number. I don't think so. I think that, I watched the game from home today, and literally it was like a Wall Street ticker tape going across the bottom of the game. This team put this people in COVID. This people put this in COVID. They got through the game tonight, and the Red Wings now got shut down. So now there's five or six.
That makes, I think, 6 teams now are shut down.
And plus all the games inter-country, United States to Canada,
right?
Done. So
listen, do you foresee that? Are we looking at a possibility of the league shutting down?
I think that they just have to. This bubble gum and the dam stuff, I understand the mechanics of the schedule. I understand that if they shut down, right, and if they don't go to the Olympics, that the buildings aren't open. They don't just sit dormant. I get all of that stuff. But if they're going to be the league that is going to stay with the testing, as opposed to the NFL, who said, you can test positive if you're asymptomatic, and they basically threw out the entire testing policy. If you're the NHL and you're going to stick this flag in the ice and say, these are the rules, I think it's inevitable. I think that the cat's out of the bag. And if 2 players from the Islanders were called out tonight, this afternoon, this morning, whenever it was at game time, Matt Martin and somebody else. If they were in the pregame skate, who knows? Maybe the Vegas Golden Knights luck runs out they won't have tests tomorrow because they'll certainly have a day off. But when they test Tuesday morning before the theoretical Tampa game,
who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. So listen, what was the kid who was here, who's in Nashville now? Cousins?
Nick Cousins.
Nick Cousins, not a glamour media guy, said, listen, what are we doing here? I mean, just shut it down for a week before Christmas. Let everybody try to get healthy, and then let's see where we go. And I've never spoke to Nick Cousins, but the young man, in my opinion, is absolutely spot on. This thing travels. They don't know how yet. But the fact that players are showing up every day, 5, 10, 15, 20, and a team goes down, this is bubblegum in the dam, and they should just shut it down and sort of have a little reset and figure some things out how they want to go forward, because they've got a lot on the line. They have a lot of money on the line. They have the future salary cap on the line. If the owners don't make the revenue, the cap's not going to go up. The players' escrow isn't going to get paid. All of those things. I don't want it to be, but I think it's the practical answer.
Okay. They have condensed. They obviously started the season a little bit later because of the delays going from last year. They're running into a time constraint here, and because of they pretty much are not playing in February at all, except for the first week to allow for the All-Star game and the proposed Olympic break. But even if they, like you said, even if they don't go, their buildings are not always going to be available to slot these games into.
Barely available is what all the articles. I mean, again, I'll quote The Athletic, but I can't remember which writer it was. He said, do you suspect that the Madison Square Garden is going to sit quiet for 3 weeks while the NHL is on their All-Star break? No. The T-Mobile has concerts and events and everything else like that, as do all the buildings. Now, is there a chance they might be able to sneak in a couple games here and a couple games there? Yes, probably. But this is not the savior plan. Yeah, they're running into time constraints. They may have to push the cup playoffs back a little bit if they insist on
playing all 82 games.
All 82 games. I mean, Calgary is shut down again. Right now, I'm looking at the Pacific standings, and the Golden Knights have 3 games in hand, or Calgary has 3 games in hand. Which way do you say it? Calgary's got 3 less games played than the Golden Knights, but Calgary's shut down and missing their next 5 games. Right. So Calgary will be 8 in the bucket.
Yeah, Calgary's got 36 points and Vegas has got 40.
Right.
And Edmonton's also got 36 points, but they've played 2 games less.
Right. And Calgary is 3 games less.
3 games less, yeah.
Right. But if Edmonton gets shut down and Calgary's already shut down, it could be 6 and 7 or 7 and 8 games less. Now, that's lovely, but think about Calgary, what's going to have to happen if they can't get these games in that Christmas break. Think about what's going to happen between February March 1st when they come back, and the end of the season. They're going to have to figure out a way to jam 7 or 8 or 9 games in there.
They're going to be playing back-to-back games almost every 4 days.
Right, and they're going to be playing 4 and 6, and they're going to be playing all sorts of shenanigans.
Yep.
So,
which takes away from the integrity of the game. You want to see NHL hockey, but you don't want to see NHL hockey being played by guys with heavy legs who are playing their 4th game in 6 nights like Vegas just did. They looked at it, especially McNabb looked really tired in the 3rd period. I mean, it's almost like he was like, please let this game be over with. He looked tired. First goal,
Carlson looked a little tired too.
Yeah. The first goal, when at first initially thought that Leonard lost the left post, but it was a pass that was an intended pass.
Yes.
And Leonard was sliding over to the right, and it happened to catch McNabb's skate.
No, it was a perfect read by Leonard. It just went off the heel of McNabb actually.
Right.
And came back to the short side.
Right.
Game 2 against New Jersey. before we start in on that, I have a little rant about that. Okay. Lindsay Ruff, the New Jersey.
Lindy
What?
Ruff, Lindy Ruff.
Is
Not
it Lindy?
It's
Okay.
Lindsey Brown. Lindsey Brown sits next to you in the press box.
All right.
Lindy Ruff is behind the
Okay.
bench in New Jersey.
All right. I'm going to break my no swearing rule, and I'll do it only once.
Lindy Ruff sent out the goon.
Lindy Ruff is a piece of shit. Okay. And I'll say this in the context of the stunt that he pulled at the end of the Golden Knights game against New Jersey. But you don't know this because you're on the road. But a couple nights later, New Jersey was in Detroit against the Red Wings and gave up 2 goals in 21 seconds toward the latter part of the game that put the game out of control. And he did the exact same thing, sent somebody after a Swedish defenseman with no fights in his NHL career. He's a piece of shit. Okay. He's an old school, this is not how the game is supposed to be played. Listen, Gerard Gallant started the fourth line all the time, but it was more as preventative from anybody doing anything stupid against the Golden Knights. He never sent anybody out to attack anybody. He never told Ryan Reeves, go get that guy or anything like that. Lindy Ruff is different. 2 games in a row that the New Jersey Devils pulled that bullshit, and he needs to be called on the carpet for it. Because, listen, I'm an old school guy, but the way the game is played right now, there's no place for that. And the second point I want to make is that was not a line brawl. That was one guy taking a run at Pietrangelo. And McNabb and Pietrangelo giving him a little beat down, and the rest of the guys were playing slap and tickle. And if you'll notice, nobody wanted to play slap and tickle with Robin.
Absolutely. And he was ready to go.
He was looking for somebody. He was like, anybody want to dance with the big crazy Swede?
Yeah.
Right.
And Blackwood was smart enough to stay down at his end of it. He stayed down it. He's a big boy, Robin Leonard. And they really, I don't know if you can hurt him with all that equipment on, but he did expose his bucket. He took his mask off and said, "Here I am, boys, come and get it." Nobody wanted him. So
that's my rant. That sort of shenanigan. There's just really no place for it. As far as the game goes, not their best effort. They certainly got lackadaisical in the third and let them back in the game.
Yep.
Right. And but they got the W, and that's really all that matters against a team that they should have got the W against.
They were based upon Boston having goaltending problems and Marchand being out and Bergeron being out immediately after the game with COVID, which means he probably wasn't feeling 100% when he played the game. So they were probably expected to win the Boston game, and they were expected to win the Jersey game. The Rangers are a pretty good team, and they gave them a pretty good battle.
They did.
Yeah, Rangers. It was a good game too. And today the Islanders came back strong. I mean, Marchand has scored 3 goals in his last 4 games, and he's had a shootout goal, he's had an empty net goal, and he had today's first goal. He didn't score in the shootout today, but boy, that move that Wah put on.
Wow, he gave him the motorcycle kick. He gave him the whole business, right?
I thought I saw Sorsen, what's his name, the goaltender I thought I saw him go back out to pick up his jock strap after.
Yeah,
well, he really got him good.
He give it to him good.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you've been to a number of the Vegas Golden Knight practices, Nicholas Waugh may be their best shootout player on the team. He's got some great moves, even though Shea Theodore was pretty good today too.
Hey,
2 goals. He actually scored 3 goals, 2 in game, 1 in the shootout, and his move in the shootout was pretty sweet too.
I don't know. They're going to have to come up with a term for an unofficial hat trick or something like that. But it certainly was nice to see Shea Theodore.
Finally,
right? It was really. I mean, after you put him on the trade block in our last episode, he must have watched it and decided I'll show that Joe Payne guy a thing or two. And but I thought they played.
And just not to interrupt you here, but McPhee and McCrimmon were on the trip, and when they're on a trip, there's always the possibility that something's in the pot boiling.
Christmas
Okay?
shopping.
Yeah, they're Christmas shopping.
Christmas shopping.
So when Theodore got scratched in the game,
yeah,
and you saw McPhee and McCrimmon on a trip, you start to wonder what the heck is going on.
Is the Grim Reaper here?
Is the Grim Reaper about to lay down the hammer on Shea Theodore? But he was back. He was back the next game, and he played well today. I mean, offensive wise, you and I never really have a problem with Shea. I mean, he does have that stick that sometimes doesn't work too well.
The hole in the blade one.
The hole in the blade kind of stick. But man, today those two blistering shots that were just perfectly placed and got Vegas back in the game. I think he scored with about 48 seconds left to go.
Yep.
With Robin on the bench, so that was a big goal.
One thing's for sure, they certainly don't have any quit in them. And Marchessault, 17 points in 17 games, 12 goals and 5 assists.
He's their leading scorer.
Yep. And the first line, which has suddenly gone quiet, they're still winning games. You get Brett Howden, you get a couple of Dylan Coughlin goals. This team has literally no quit.
They find a way.
They make a way. They make a way. 6 on 5 at the end of the game doesn't count as a power play goal, but it is a power play. It's what do they call a power play? A man advantage, right? So I'm impressed more and more. And listen, you and I were never doubters about this. The first episode of this season of Hockey Nights in Vegas is called "It's Way Too Early to Panic." Right? We knew they were going to get healthy. We knew that they were going to turn into the Vegas Golden Knights team that everybody expected them to be. I'm not sure if I expected it this quickly, by Christmas, but listen, they're stacked, right? They are stacked. And Robin is still, his goals against is still 3, and his save percentage is still a little bit over 900.
That needs to get better.
And needs to get better. And he's not shying away from, I need to get better. And he's been cursed a little bit. He's had some bad bounces. The McNabb goal today was terrible, right? I mean, it was just nothing you could do.
That wasn't his fault at all, though.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was a terrible goal in that he had nothing to do with it. It was a bounce, right? It's puck luck. And the second goal, I don't know if it went off Pietrangelo or not. They never really slowed down a replay, but it was the same sort of shot that Brossoit got fooled by Zibanejad against the Rangers, where you use the defenseman as a screen.
He used Zach Whitecloud. He waited for Zach Whitecloud to kind of part his legs open, and he fired a shot between Whitecloud's legs, and Brossoit never had a chance on that shot. It went right over his right shoulder.
So, I think that I think the best is yet to come with them. I think this is a huge road trip for them. 8 points, 4 games in 6 nights, jelly legs. And they were tired. Nobody really got after Pete DeBoer and asked them, but they gritted this win out. There's no other way to put it. They were skating on jelly legs. He shortened up the bench a little bit, and then he had to expand who he played in the overtime period because the guys were just dead.
And he also, and I'm sure you noticed this, he also made a defensive change where he put Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore together when they were behind, trying to create additional offense. And when he was asked about that after the game,
pure genius.
He said, yeah, he did say that, but he said it wasn't me. He said it wasn't me though. He said when you have. And I think there's a little bit of an embellishment here when he said, when you have the 2 best defensemen in the world.
No, he said 2 of the best defensemen.
He did 2. Okay, I thought he said 2 of the best.
No, 2 of the best.
Of the best, okay. I mean, Pietrangelo is good. I don't know if Shea Theodore is of the best of the defensemen.
Finished 5th in the Norris, 6th in the Norris the last 2 years.
Okay, all right, I understand that, but
concept wise, if you have two of the okay, so let's expand the pool. 2 of the top, 1 in the top 5, and 2 in the top 20 defensemen in the NHL.
Okay,
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's more than fair. But
Okay.
because, when you look at the Norris Trophy, though, you're looking at a trophy that's awarded to a defenseman for basically his defensive play. Okay?
Conceptually, sure, yeah.
Conceptually, right. Shea Theodore,
not so much.
Not so much. I mean,
not so much.
Today he proved his worth on the offensive side of the puck. I wouldn't call Shea Theodore. I think Zach Whitecloud is more defensive minded and more defensive responsible than Shea Theodore is.
Listen, Captain Obvious. I mean, come on. You didn't really. That was not a huge leap for you.
It wasn't, but you keep in mind that Zach Whitecloud is the bottom 6 of defensemen.
Maybe not. Two games in a row. Shea Theodore was on the 3rd pair,
right?
But today he was bumped up to the 2nd pair, which brings me to a good point. I'm not going to be like other people and say I take issue with something, because I'm nobody to take issue about anything when it comes to how they line up. But I do have a question on why you would pair Dylan Coughlin with Shea Theodore and McNabb with Whitehead. With all due respect to Shea Theodore and Dylan Coughlin, they are significantly more offensive-minded defensemen and have been known to have a little bit of a defensive liability on occasion, where McNabb and Whitecloud are stalwarts on the defensive end of the puck. And in the words of Mark Stone, you get the occasional trick shot from Braden McNabb and the occasional 2-goal game from Whitecloud. But I didn't understand sort of that setup for the pairing, where you don't have normally, if you go back ages to Paul Coffey and even to Bobby Orr, the premier offensive defenseman through time, they've always been paired with somebody who is sort of a little more defensively responsible should they go for a skate, right? Alex Pietrangelo probably skates more feet, yards, meters, miles than anybody in the NHL, but he's with Nick Hague, who's very much a stay-at-home defenseman.
Yeah, but I think the problem that Nick Hague runs into, and he's taken a couple of games where he's taken multiple penalties in one game. I think that occurs because Pietrangelo is always jumping into the play, and Nick Hague has got to stay back. And sometimes Nick Hague is the lone guy back, and he's forced to take. I don't want to call it a lazy penalty, but he's got a long stick. He's forced to take a stick penalty because he's trying to cover, because Pietrangelo, and he's good. Pietrangelo is good as far as joining the rush, which DeBoer preaches to his defenseman. He wants a defenseman to join the rush. But I think that's a little detrimental to Hague because, he's a pretty young guy back there, and sometimes he's being left out to, I don't want to say to dry, but he's got to kind of make up for Pietrangelo being more of an offensive-minded defenseman, and he winds up taking, I think there was 2 or 3 games in a row, he took 2 penalties in the same game. So I think that happens. Do you like the Pietrangelo Hague matchup pairings?
I think it's really tough on Nick Hague. I think it would be easier on Zach Whitecloud.
I was just going to say that I would rather see Whitecloud play with Pietrangelo.
But I think they both shoot right.
Right, yeah.
They both shoot
right.
Yeah,
but Vegas has never had a problem playing 2 right-handed defensemen on opposite sides, obviously.
And it's not like Pietrangelo stays in his lane.
No.
I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, stay in your lane. I'm talking about in the old days when I played hockey, you went up and down your wing, right? The wingers went up and down their wings, and that was it.
Pietrangelo is the 4th forward on the Vegas Golden Knights. When he's out there, he's the 4th forward.
And it's absolutely, for those people who are not huge hockey fans, the theory is that when they start to push the puck up, a defenseman joins the rush, usually in the center seam, to force the defense back even further and to create more open ice in the home plate area, from the crease to the face-off dots and up. That's what they call
yeah.
home plate. But they're very effective in creating mismatches. And that fourth forward, when a 3-on-2 becomes a 4-on-2, and they press on those seams and they continue to press on those seams in the center, they force defensemen into a very difficult decision. And a decision has to be made instantaneously on, am I going to take this guy or am I going to cover the D-man that's pushing down the center of the ice? And a lot of that leads to these 60 and 80 and 100-foot stretch passes that we see the Golden Knights be so very effective at. And that's because they're flexing down on their opponent and they're forcing these no good decision is the right decision. And it may only be an instant where he decides he's going to look one way, where Pacioretty will take off the other way. And the next thing you know, you'll see a 100-foot seam pass and he's in on his own. So I get the system.
There's two things I want to ask you. And I didn't get an explanation. And both Jesse Granger and I noticed that today on the ice at the Allen Arena, USB, or was it UBS?
UBS.
Yeah, UBS.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Did you see that second line that was like 2 or 3 feet in front of the goal line inside the blue paint? Was there any explanation given on TV what that additional line? Did you see it though?
I didn't see it. Didn't see it, but I also haven't deleted the game yet. So
what's when you go back to look at some of the goals, look at this. There's an extra line that's about, it looks like maybe it's 12 to 18 inches in front of the goal red line. There's another line going across. And Jesse and I were looking at it today and going, what is that line? And also, the other point,
through the blue paint?
Yeah, it's in the blue paint. The second line, it's about maybe 12 to 18 inches above
in front of the goal line.
In front of the goal line. And the other thing is, you notice how aggressive the Islander forecheck is? They were sending 2 guys in and just trying to immediately force the Vegas Golden Knight defenseman into making a mistake. They were hard on them today coming in. And Vegas tried to do what you were kind of mentioning, is try to get that stretch pass going to kind of break that forecheck up. But the Islanders are really hard on the forecheck today. And
the Islanders forecheck today looked like the Golden Knights year 1 with Gerard Gallant. It looked hard. Like they hard in the zone.
Hard.
And the Islanders are a pretty big team, and their fourth line with Clutterbuck, they're a couple of big guys, and they gave out a little pounding. The Golden Knights, to the shock of nobody, were out hit massively again today.
I think they might have a whopping 14 hits today.
Yeah, I think it was 26-14 or something like that. Yeah. But you know what? In today's NHL game, speed and finesse win. And they took a lot of hits today. I mean, Nick Hay ran a couple of times, big time in the boards, right, on the forecheck. But you know what? You take the hit to make the pass. Pietrangelo did it in I think it was the Jersey game. He got planted at the top of the circle in the D zone, but he made the pass and they scored going the other way. So, I mean, clearly the Golden Knights have decided that last year's system and the year before system and the year before that, the Ryan Reeves 12 hits a game, Carrier 8 hits a game, that's not the way to win the cup. And we've talked about it briefly before. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the cup back-to-back with no big bruising guys. They won it with Yanni Gourde, and, they finessed it. And the Golden Knights, obviously, when they traded Ryan Reeves, they made a conscious effort to say, we're not going to be the big bad Golden Knights where we're going to crush you on every dump in. We're going to finesse you and score more goals and beat you and play a better system. And they
Go ahead.
Speaking of,
I was going to say, speaking of hits, what did you think about the Pacioretty hit that he wound up having to fight Bellows for along the boards there?
I think that you and I have identified that he has a little bit of a mean streak in him. Pacioretty does.
Oh, absolutely.
He got checked, right? And then he went back after the guy in the corner and he gave him a little throw, but it wasn't like Brett Connolly on that kid from Dallas.
No.
You know, it wasn't like that. And, you know, the kid who came in to fight Pacioretty, the kid's
I tweeted,
he's got
4 points.
Four points.
I tweeted that was a bad trade for the Vegas Golden Knights.
But
we sent our guy with 19 points in the box in 5 minutes with a guy for 4. But
here's what we know.
Bellows wound up scoring the goal.
But here's what we know. Pacioretty ain't backing down from nobody.
No.
So that guy
wasn't really much of a fight, though.
No, it was a slap and tickle adventure, right? He tried. I mean, Pacioretty showed good form going under an uppercut, but there were no damaging blows in the fight.
No, not at all.
You know, and I think Pete DeBoer's big complaint was, where's the 2 minutes for instigating? And that's
came over, yeah.
That's a call that I think needs to be made a lot more often that isn't. If a third guy comes in after a big check, right, and he initiates a fight
on a check that didn't draw a penalty,
right? I mean, that is the definition of an instigator penalty, and that should be a power play. Obviously, we don't get to talk rules with anybody, but you know, that guy took a run at Pacioretty. He thought he was defending the honor of his guy or whatever it was, but he certainly came from nowhere to fight Pacioretty. If that's not an instigator, I mean, I don't know what is.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. I thought the hit was clean. I don't think it was a dirty hit. And you're absolutely
right. It was okay.
It should absolutely have been an instigator, but they're more interested this year in calling the cross-checking penalty. The instigator, you hardly ever see the instigator get called anymore.
You don't see that, you also don't see the interference call, except we saw one on the dump in when the defenseman's stopping the guy after the puck's chipped past him,
trying to slip by the boards. Yeah,
right. That call used to be made 3 times a game. I think you and I have seen it once this season, and it was a couple 3 games ago.
I think the word has come down from Gary Bettman. They want more goals scored, so now that's why they're calling these cross-checking penalties more frequently than they were. I mean, that used to be a standard SOP procedure. If you stood in front of the net in the previous years, you were getting a 2-hander to your lower back, and you were going to wind up with your face planted on the ice, and it was never called. This year, they said we're going to crack down on that, and
the statistics indicate that they are. So far, you know, the NHL gives you up 30% or some. It's a very large number, but it's also being applied inconsistently, it seems like to me.
Absolutely. Yep.
You know, it's like they say in professional football, the referees can call a penalty on every play. And there comes a point of, is it refereeing or managing the game? I mean, a couple games before, and I don't remember when because it's getting late for me. There was an all-out fight, and they gave one guy 4 for roughing and one guy 2 for roughing.
I don't. What game was that?
I can't even remember what game it is. It might. Oh, it was a Red Wings game. It was an all-out swinging for the fences fight, and one guy gets 4 for roughing and the other guy gets 2 for roughing. And the color guy, the Shane Knighty for the Detroit Red Wings, is a guy named Mickey Redmond.
And he's a player.
Player. He was a fantastic player in Montreal, playing with a fantastic player. And then he played for the Red Wings, scored 50 goals a couple of times, but he is he's a vintage old school hockey guy. And he also,
what did he have to say about that?
He's also very colorful. He's the perfect color guy because he knows the game inside and out, right? But he said, I don't understand this. And because they were throwing haymakers. I'll find the video on YouTube and send it to you. But we're getting so far off track. Let's get back on here and talk about what's coming up. 4-0. The Golden Knights are in first place in the Pacific, contrary to all the naysayers, haters, doubters, and non-believers. The Panda is 2-0 in his last 2 shootout games. And God knows nobody really expected that in the fan base. The Golden Knights are on their way home. They have 2 games in theory before the Christmas break. Tuesday night against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tough games coming up.
And then Thursday night against the LA Kings, who have suddenly become a bit of a nemesis to the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to call a game against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions a trap game, but there is a statistic somewhere that talks about teams that are coming back from long road trips in their first game back in their own arena. On their best of days travel, I think Tampa and the Golden Knights are probably a pretty even match. I'm a little concerned that 4 games in 6 nights, a long flight, and literally only
3-hour time difference.
Right, and 1 day off. Tampa is getting Vegas at the right time, right? And Vegas is not getting Tampa at the most opportune time.
No.
So
I would like to see them have maybe playing Tampa on Thursday instead of Tuesday and play LA on Tuesday.
Right.
Schedule makers didn't make that happen.
And again, this is all with the proviso that when we wake up tomorrow, the whole league isn't shut down, or more teams aren't shut down, or whatever the hell's going on with this Omicron variant.
By the way, second 4-game road winning streak. They had one again this year earlier. Do you know when?
It's 5 in a row, I think, total.
Well,
right?
I'm talking about 4-game road trip, 4 road trip wins in a row. They had one last year. Well, in this year, but last season.
Right.
In 2 games against Anaheim and Los Angeles late in April of this year.
And Anaheim and Los Angeles were much different teams
than they are now.
Last year than they are now. And I think this was a very significant for more than just the points. You know, all the doubters now, there's no more room to doubt. The Golden Knights are very for real. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they get their last 2 games in before the Christmas break. If this game against Tampa gets postponed, I'm okay with it, actually.
Yeah.
I'd rather see both teams on
a different part of the schedule.
on full rest both ways.
Right. Now, do you got in your mind, does the Borough come back with Leonard for Tampa Bay and Brosant against LA on Thursday? Pretty much.
I think Leonard didn't have a high event game today. He made some great saves, right? But I wouldn't call it a real high event game where he can't come back with him. I also think, though, that you have to give this game to Leonard. He's your number 1 goalie. But I think that Brossoit's performance is increasing DeBoer's
ability
trust.
To not be afraid to go to him.
Right. I think he's earning his trust, and I think that we may see the workload. I don't want to say even out, because it shouldn't even out.
No, it's never going to even out. But
the margin should be small.
A little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because listen, Brossoit for $2.75 million he's doing his job. I think he's 6-2 or 7. Maybe now he's 7-2 with a sub-3 goals against average and and over a 900 save percentage. I mean, they're getting their money's worth out of the guy.
Right.
And he's come up big in some big games. He's had a stinker, but everybody has a stinker. That's not, unusual. I think it was a good pickup for a backup goalie, and every game he plays well, he earns less of a delay between his starts.
Getting back into the net. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could not agree with you more on that. I think he played real well in New York. He played exceptionally well in the overtime period also. Yeah,
seven saves, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a big OT and not 7 easy saves. There were a couple of 10-bellers in there. It was good. It was positive. It's almost midnight on the East Coast. I'm going to let Joe go to bed. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Send us your comments, good and bad. Tell me I swear too much, even though I've been very good this year. And I just couldn't remember the coach of the New Jersey Devils. Sorry to our friend Lindsey Brown. I got her mixed up with Lindy Ruff.
Lindy Ruff.
Lindy Ruff. So, sorry about that, Lindsay. We forgive you. I mean, please forgive me. Joe's going to get some rest and he's going to fly back to Vegas tomorrow. We'll probably catch up with you. We may
After
do something.
Christmas, probably.
Yeah, we'll see how the league goes, but certainly not before
we may be shut down too.
Right, because we're not going to just get on here and talk about nothing. So you can always count on us to say something that's relevant to what's going on for the Vegas Golden Knights here at Hockey Nights in Vegas. But Joe, thanks for doing this after the road trip. I'm glad to see that.
Edition.
Yeah, the late night edition. And I'm glad to see that we figured out how to do it when we're both not in the same city. That bodes real well for when we do road trips and stuff like that. So it's good. It's a good time. It's a good time to be a Golden Knights fan, kids. First place, December 19th, after a 1-4 start. The Golden Knights are in first place in the Pacific Division. We'll be joining you again soon. Joe, fly home safe. And we'll talk to everybody again soon. I'll see you Tuesday in the press box, hopefully. Don't forget your mask. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody.